Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 213 based on novel. So let's start. The blood ancestor coldly looked at Wang Lin. His finger didn't stop and continued to press down. The finger pressed down 3 inches from Wang Lin. A loud bang echoed the sky. Wang Lin coughed out a mouthful of blood and his body flew away like a broken kite. In the air, his body flipped a few times before he landed on the ground, causing the ground under him to crack. Wang Lin's body continued to back up. Every step he took would cause the ground to crack. After retreating 100 steps, he was finally able to stabilize his body. He was in an extremely sorry state and blood was coming out from the corner of his mouth. There were countless cracks on the ground before him. It was like a sign of how powerful that finger was. The blood ancestor took 1 step and arrived 100 steps away from Wang Lin. He calmly said, "I'll only give you 3 sentences." More blood flowed out from the corner of Wang Lin's mouth and many bones in his body were broken. The celestial guard's body was strong and this was the first time it had been this seriously injured, but Wang Lin smiled. This smile was extremely gloomy. I thought Blood Ancestor was really going to let that finger land regardless of Yao Shishue's death and destroy everything. Wang Lin wasn't afraid at all. Although the Blood Ancestor was strong, he was not as strong as the heavens. Wang Lin was a heaven-defying cultivator. If he dared to defy the heavens, what was a mere Blood Ancestor? If the Blood Ancestor's finger had landed, Wang Lin believed the celestial guard would without a doubt die and his divine sense inside would immediately collapse as well. The blood ancestor's eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked into sky and said, "You still have 2 sentences." He really wanted to kill Wang Lin directly and then soul search him for Yao Shishue's whereabouts. However, he couldn't help but be cautious. He knew that Wang Lin was extremely cunning, decisive, and ruthless. Otherwise, there was no way for Wang Lin to kick up such a storm in the demon spirit land. All those old monsters, including him, were played by this brat, and in the end they could only helplessly watch him disappear into the vortex. This person came with a clone, so he is naturally not afraid of me killing him. Once I really kill him, then his real body will immediately attack Shishue. The blood soul pill is not without flaws. Wang Lin wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth, tidied up his clothes, and slowly said, "Senior blood ancestor, Yao Shishue is safe." In these hundreds of years, Junior didn't even touch a strand of her hair. Junior can give her back and let you reunite with your daughter. However, Senior has to let Junior go and promise to not trouble Junior anymore in the future. The blood ancestor withdrew his gaze from the sky and looked at Wang Lin. His eyes revealed no anger, but he calmly said, "Okay. This old man swears on his Tao that if you hand over my daughter, I won't kill you." Wang Lin stared at the blood ancestor, and after a long time, he let out a sigh. He couldn't tell if the person was lying or not. After silently pondering for a moment, Wang Lin opened his mouth and spat out a crystal. The crystal landed on the side and became a transfer array. This transfer array was not stable and showed signs of collapsing. Wang Lin slowly said, "Yao Shishue is inside this transfer array." He didn't play any more schemes with the blood ancestor. The blood ancestor had been cultivating for tens of thousands of years, so in terms of schemes, the blood ancestor could only be better than him, not worse. Trying to scheme against such a person was pointless, and after Wang Lin understood this, his hidden trap became an overt plot. After throwing out the transfer array, Wang Lin retreated rapidly toward the void near the fragment. He moved very fast. He clearly was using his full cultivation. "Blood ancestor, I gave you a chance. How this goes will depend not on me but on you. If you believe me, then go in first to show your sincerity and that your promise is true. Then I will be sincere once as well. Since you believe me, I'll believe you. However, if you don't enter the array and come after me, that means you don't believe me and your promise is false. Then don't blame me for being ruthless and killing a god." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Unless he had to, he really didn't want to make the blood ancestor his enemy. If he hadn't been forced into a hopeless situation, he wouldn't have imprisoned Yao Shishue. He made Li Yuan make the transfer array only work 3 times to coordinate with his plan. The Blood Ancestor looked at the transfer array. With a scan of his divine sense, he immediately felt a trace of Yao Shishue's aura. Although he couldn't see where the transfer array went, he knew his daughter's aura well. This transfer array indeed led to Yao Shishue. He took a step forward and arrived before the transfer array. His hand reached out and the transfer array collapsed into countless specks of light. Then the specks of light condensed back into a crystal in his right hand. Shortly after, he suddenly turned around and gloomily looked at the rapidly retreating Wang Lin. He muttered, "How can I let you leave after only a few words when you trapped my daughter for hundreds of years? I don't even believe in Tao, how can I not kill you?" The killing intent he had been withholding burst forth. He took a step and immediately chased after Wang Lin. As Wang Lin escaped along the thunder chain into the void, he felt the powerful killing intent coming from behind him. He let out a sigh and his eyes became cold. "Blood Ancestor, since this is your choice, then don't blame me. It is not me being ruthless, you just won't let it go." As the Blood Ancestor chased after Wang Lin, his eyes were filled with killing intent. In a few steps, he closed in and raised his hand. He mercilessly pressed down and the entire void paused. The thunder chain under Wang Lin's feet instantly collapsed and cracked down from the middle. At the same time, the void immediately became a blood sea that surrounded Wang Lin. Refine. With a roar, the surrounding blood sea seemed to boil and then it rushed toward Wang Lin. The sea was so fast that it entered Wang Lin's body in an instant. It entered the celestial guard and surrounded Wang Lin's divine sense within. An indescribable pain immediately spread throughout his body. The divine sense inside the celestial guard felt extreme pain, as if it was being torn apart piece by piece. The strength of the celestial guard's body shined at this moment. It was able to resist the refining of the blood sea and caused the process to slow down. This wasn't finished yet. A ray of blood light shot out and disappeared into the void. It didn't really disappear, but used a strange celestial power to break through the void and close in on where Wang Lin's body was hiding. The Blood Ancestor's hatred had reached a pinnacle. He wanted to refine Wang Lin's clone and the divine sense inside it. He could even refine to death the original body that was hiding somewhere with his spell. The fragment Wang Lin's origin body was hiding in was immediately covered in red. The ground was like the blood sea and slowly gathered toward Wang Lin. The red light penetrated the earth and condensed into a red needle that charged toward Wang Lin. Once he was hit by that needle, Wang Lin's origin soul would collapse and immediately die. While hiding underground, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes. He took out the restriction ball Li Yuan gave him and without hesitation used his celestial spiritual energy to cause half of the restrictions inside the storage space to collapse. At the same time, he charged out from underground and the needle chased closely after. "Blood Ancestor, I don't know if your daughter's origin soul can stay safe when that space collapses." Wang Lin's origin soul let out a muffled groan and let out these last words before it collapsed. The Blood Ancestor's expression changed as he almost immediately felt the fluctuations of space collapsing coming from the crystal. He didn't have time to deal with Wang Lin or the half-refined puppet. He threw down the crystal and placed down a seal to stabilize it. The crystal immediately turned into a transfer array. This was the third time it opened and the last time. When the transfer array opened, a destructive aura came out from inside. However, the Blood Ancestor was unable to think about it too much and he gloomily stepped inside. The seal he placed played a big role in preventing the transfer array from collapsing after the Blood Ancestor used it to enter. The Blood Ancestor's figure disappeared. The moment he entered the storage space, his expression immediately changed greatly. With his knowledge, he immediately recognized this place as a storage space opened by a celestial. A chill appeared inside his heart. It had been countless years since he felt the threat of death. Even during the countless times he challenged the All-Seer, he never felt his scalp tingle like this. In the end, he was only a cultivator. Right now he could clearly feel his heart beat faster and faster. Over the years, he gained a detailed understanding of the celestial storage spaces. He knew that if this storage space collapsed, it would destroy everything inside in an instant. Even if he used the blood soul pill, it still wasn't enough when facing this kind of destructive force. Only if he devoured all of the blood soul pills at once could he rely on the mysterious power inside and resist the destruction of this storage space. Damn it, how did this Wang Lin find a storage space? Even someone like the All-Seer can only depend on luck to find a place like this. Wang Lin, you and I can't coexist. The blood ancestor almost broke his teeth. From the moment he entered, he could feel his daughter's aura. He charged straight for the valley and found the restriction ball trapping Yao Shishue in almost an instant. He didn't even have time to undo the restriction and quickly put away the restriction sphere. Right now Wang Lin, who was being chased by the red needle spell from the blood ancestor, revealed a fierce expression. He had activated all of the restrictions inside the storage space to cause it to completely collapse. You want to kill me? Then I'll kill you here first. Wang Lin's finger pointed at 9 points of his body and moved even faster. The red needle behind him chased closely after. Holding Yao Shishue's restriction sphere, the blood ancestor moved like crazy. The calm he had before was completely gone. He now looked like a madman covered in a red glow. He charged like crazy toward the transfer array that he had solidified with his divine sense. The storage space around him began to collapse and the two mountains were immediately torn down. A power that could destroy everything instantly filled the area, and it was as if that power wanted to drown him. Wang Lin, if I escape, I swear to kill you, even if I need to go to the heaven or hell. The blood ancestor's voice was filled with killing intent, and it filled the storage space. The mountains were torn apart and the valleys melted. More than 1,000 restrictions activated, causing the storage space to enter its final stage of collapse. At this moment, the blood ancestor's eyes were bloodshot and he was almost crazy. His speed was unimaginable. He immediately arrived next to the reinforced transfer array. It was like the storage space was being burned by a black flame behind him. The flame was ferocious and wanted to devour the blood ancestor. Just as the blood ancestor was about to step into the transfer array and leave, the expression of Wang Lin, who was being chased by the red needle, instantly darkened. Although his divine sense inside the Celestial Guard was destroyed, the Celestial Guard wasn't completely refined by the Blood Sea yet. Through his connection he had with the Celestial Guard, Wang Lin was able to see the transfer array flash and the blood ancestor's figure was quickly condensing. Wang Lin knew that he would without a doubt die without any chance for survival if the blood ancestor escaped. Under the moment of crisis, he let out a sigh and made a decisive decision. I wasn't able to complete my promise. I'll make it up to you in the future. Outside the transfer array, the eyes of the Celestial Guard, who was trapped inside the Blood Sea, shined brightly. The light was so bright that it covered his whole body and burst forth along with a destructive aura. It was as if a storm was setting off in the Celestial Guard's body and rays of golden light were shooting out from its body like swords. The self-explosion of an illusory yin cultivator created a terrifying destructive force that allowed the Celestial Guard to charge out from the Blood Ancestor's spell. Although the Blood Ancestor's spell no longer had control of the Celestial Guard, it was still extraordinary. As it refined the Celestial Guard, it managed to reduce the power of the self-explosion by nearly 60%. The Celestial Guard charged out with 40% of the self-explosion power and arrived next to the transfer array. The moment the Blood Ancestor appeared, the Celestial Guard glowed like the sun. A powerful explosion erupted at this moment. Under the power of this destructive force, the transfer array immediately collapsed into specks of light and disappeared. Inside the storage space, half of the Blood Ancestor's body had entered the transfer array. He let out a roar and was forced out. He watched the transfer array rapidly dissipate. It was as if thousands of years were compressed into a single breath. At the moment of crisis, the Blood Ancestor's body emitted a strange light. He looked at the restriction ball Yao Shishue was in and crushed it without any hesitation. Under the destructive force of the storage space, even if Yao Shishue ate a blood soul pill, it wouldn't be enough with just one. This was why the Blood Ancestor personally crushed the restriction sphere to let Yao Shishue revive. With the Blood Ancestor's understanding of the blood soul pill, he knew that she had already taken a blood soul pill. Behind him, the black flame came and the red light shined from the blood ancestor like crazy. He wanted to postpone the collapse and buy time so Yao Shishua wouldn't be affected during her resurrection process. The blood ancestor opened his arms and his mid-stage nirvana cleanser cultivation burst forth without reserve. Waves of blood light came out from his body and blocked the black flames that were devouring everything. His body was instantly covered and the flames began burning him. Intense pain that he hadn't felt for tens of thousands of years filled his body. However, the blood ancestor didn't care. He focused all of his power into protecting the 30 feet before him to prevent Yao Shishua's divine sense from dissipating. Several breaths of time were like tens of thousands of years. Under the protection of her father suppressing the collapse, Yao Shishua's resurrection process wasn't affected by the collapse of the storage space. Red light filled the area where Yao Shishua hid her blood soul pill in the demon spirit land and Yao Shishua's figure slowly appeared. After she appeared, she looked up at the sky. Her eyes were filled with sorrow and unforgettable killing intent. After seeing his own daughter's divine sense safely leave, the blood ancestor revealed a kind, fatherly smile. Then his own body was surrounded by the black flames. At this moment, he took out 3 blood soul pills. He didn't devour them but crushed them all. There were only 13 blood soul pills left. Most of them were with Yao Shishua, and the blood ancestor only had 3. The blood soul pills scattered and a blue liquid came out from inside them. The blue liquid and black flames cancelled each other out. At this moment, the entire storage space collapsed and everything inside disappeared. It didn't get thrown into nothingness but completely collapsed without a trace. Wang Lin was moving extremely fast across the fragment he was hiding on. His body flashed blood red 9 times as he rapidly fled with the red needle chasing closely after. However, at the next instant, the red needle stopped chasing him and collapsed layer by layer until it almost dissipated completely. Wang Lin felt relief and found that his clothes were soaked in sweat. A gentle breeze immediately made him feel cold. Before him, the red needle was already half transparent and slowly disappeared. However, just as it was about to completely disappear, it stopped dissipating, turned around, and flew off into the distance. Not dead? Wang Lin's eyes were filled with terror and he charged out without thinking. His hand reached out and he spat out origin energy that formed a prison that trapped the red needle. The red needle let out a sharp whistle as if it wanted to rush out. It kept crashing against the prison, and every impact would make Wang Lin's face a bit paler. His eyes became cold and his celestial spiritual energy activated to strengthen the prison. He slowly pulled it toward him as he stared at the red needle, and his eyes were filled with determination. Seal! With a shout, the prison rapidly shrank until it was wrapped around the needle. Wang Lin grabbed the needle and landed on the ground. If it wasn't for the red needle losing almost all of its power, it would have been impossible for Wang Lin to seal it. However, right now the needle was at its weakest and Wang Lin had used all the celestial spiritual energy inside his body to seal it. Even so, the seal was still unstable. The red needle seemed like it could charge out at any time. Wang Lin took a deep breath and his expression became extremely gloomy. The blood ancestor is not dead. Even though he didn't die, he must be extremely weak. Otherwise, this needle wouldn't have weakened so much. Once the blood ancestor recovers, the first thing he will do is try to kill me. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he stared at the red needle. This needle was almost transparent and was giving off an aura of death. This needle must have been called by the blood ancestor to return. I can't miss this chance, I must risk it. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and threw the red needle. The needle flew away with Wang Lin following close behind while he adjusted the celestial spiritual energy inside his body. His seal was on the red needle, which made it very easy for him to attack. One person and one needle quickly moved across the Thunder Celestial realm. Often they would disappear without a trace in a flash. Countless small drops of blood floated in the void in the Thunder Celestial realm. There were flashes of blue light coming from these drops of blood, making them look very gorgeous. Every drop of blood contained a trace of the blood ancestor's origin soul and a large amount of origin energy. When the storage space collapsed, he used 3 blood soul pills and a secret spell of the Yao family to survive. When he came to the All-Heaven star system, the blood ancestor was too confident and didn't take a blood soul pill in advance. If he had done so, he would have appeared on the blood planet in the Alliance star system. These drops of blood weren't completely stationary in the void but closely converged. Once all of them fused, he would awaken. This process slowly continued. 3 months later, the originally spread out drops of blood had gathered closely together. Some of them had even merged together. The blood ancestor's origin soul was gradually awakening. Once he awakens, his recovery rate will increase several-fold. This day, almost 60% of the blood drops had fused together. The blood ancestor's origin soul began to show signs of awakening. However, just at this moment, a ray of thunder came from the distance. This ray of thunder was a thunder beast with a chain around its neck. It had a bunch of paper talismans all over its body, so it looked like a mess. Someone had even managed to poke a small hole through its silver horn and put an iron hoop through it. The beast's eyes revealed a pitiful gaze. It was difficult to imagine how it managed to get through all this. Your appearance finally matches this old man's prestige. This is how a real thunder beast looks like. You should know that those golden-horned thunder beasts can only sigh when they look at you. You are the most unique thunder beast out there. Believe this old man, yes, you are fated with this old man. On the thunder beast's back sat an old man. He was holding the chain fastened around the thunder beast's neck like it was a horse. Behind him there were countless rays of thunder following him like meteors. Inside every ray of thunder was a thunder beast, and their eyes all revealed fear. This old man would sometimes raise his hand to mess with the iron hoop on the thunder beast's silver horn and then would reveal a look of admiration. This old man has so much fate with you that I almost don't want to return you to the little fellow. The thunder beast's body trembled. Right now it was completely terrified of this old man. In particular, the word, fated, was like a nightmare. It could never forget how the old man kept muttering about them being fated while placing strange things on its body. However, although it wasn't satisfied with many of these things, it felt that the iron hoop was very pleasing to look at. Yes, this is the place. Even a powerful Nirvana cleanser cultivator can end up like this. It's fate. The old man looked at the gathered drops of blood and his eyes lit up. This spell that merges the origin soul with blood belongs to Old Yao's family. This is a spell only direct descents can use, and today one was caught by me. The old man rubbed his chin and his eyes grew brighter and swept over the drops of blood. He is indeed worthy of someone fated with his old man to come up with such an unexpected method to deal with a Nirvana cleanser cultivator. I can't just stand by and watch, I should help him. The old man licked his lips and his hand reached out. All of the drops of blood were seized by him without any resistance. With a pinch, all of the drops of blood instantly fused. The blood ancestor's origin soul instantly fused and awakened. Many thanks, Senior. My Yao family will thank you. The blood ancestor's voice came from inside the blood. There was no joy or anger inside his voice, he was extremely calm. The old man messed with the iron hoop on the thunder beast's silver horn as he said, "Don't pretend, you're obviously filled with fear in your heart. You're worried that this old man has ill intentions and will directly refine you into a pill to even bring out the Yao family. Even if the Yao family's master, the blood god, comes, do you think this old man will be afraid?" The blood ancestor pondered a bit and then sent out a message. "No matter what, I have to thank Senior for his help." The old man said, "This old man is very reasonable. You see, I helped you reduce the time of your fusion." "Eh? I didn't know that your Yao family's origin soul blood spell didn't allow your body to be fused back together by force. It seems that when I fused your body by force, your cultivation level dropped several realms, so you're now at the late stage of Nirvana Scrya. Because I didn't know any of this before, you can't blame me." The blood ancestor silently pondered and forcibly suppressed the wrath in his origin soul. His divine sense sent out a calm message. "No harm done. Since Senior didn't know, then this is my fate. If Senior has nothing else, please release your spell and let me leave." The old man chuckled as his eyes lit up and he said, "Little boy from the Yao family, you are fated with me. The thunder beast under him trembled and looked at the blood ancestor with a trace of sympathy. However, even more so, it was happy someone else was suffering with it. The blood ancestor silently pondered. "Didn't you say that you were going to repay me? Then you can repay me now." The old man raised his right hand and pulled out the blood ancestor's origin soul from the pool of blood. He then abruptly ripped half of the origin soul and then with a wave of his right hand pulled half of the pool of blood as well. Half an origin soul and half a blood body is enough to repay this old man's grace. The old man smiled as he pushed the remaining half of the origin soul back into the remaining pool of blood and blew a breath. The pool began to boil and immediately collapsed, turning into countless drops of blood. The blood ancestor wasn't even able to send out a single divine sense before he went back to sleep. Although this old man's big matter will definitely succeed, with half of this Yao family member's origin soul and blood body, it will increase my chances. Now isn't that always a good thing? The old man let out a mischievous smile. He didn't even look at the drops of blood and flew far away with the thunder beasts. In the void, Wang Lin's expression was gloomy as he closely followed behind the red needle. The red needle suddenly flashed brightly and emitted a powerful aura. It then broke through Wang Lin's seal. This change caused Wang Lin's eyes to narrow. However, the red needle suddenly dimmed again and became even weaker than before. It then headed straight toward the void ahead. Wang Lin frowned. He hesitated before following closely after. I must take this opportunity to kill the blood ancestor to prevent any problems in the future. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and chased after the red needle. Time slowly passed. Inside the void, Wang Lin had forgotten about the passage of time and had forgotten the burning pain, which was no longer as intense and was becoming weaker. He had forgotten all of this. The only thing that remained was the nearly collapsed red needle before him. The red needle gradually became faster and faster. Wang Lin was almost unable to keep up. However, at this moment, Wang Lin suddenly stopped. His eyes became cold and he looked ahead. There were 10 balls of blood of different sizes that were near each other as if they were going to fuse. The red needle rushed into one of the balls of blood. A blood aura suddenly filled the area as the ball of blood that the red needle entered began to move and devour the other balls of blood. Blood ancestor? Wang Lin's eyes were filled with killing intent. He took out the mountain stone without any hesitation before extracting its soul and pressing it down toward the blood. The mountain soul surged forth and collapsed before the balls of blood, carrying a powerful force that caused the balls of blood to tremble. However, the mountain soul wasn't strong enough and the balls of blood quickly gathered. After throwing forth the mountain soul, Wang Lin took a step back, took out the celestial sword, and quickly swung it down. The heavenly chop shot out like lightning and 2 balls of blood that were originally fusing were instantly separated by the heavenly chop. Wang Lin didn't stop. The powerful thunder inside his origin soul surged out, forming powerful bolts of thunder that shot toward the balls of blood. Under the powerful attacks, the balls of blood trembled violently. The blood ancestor's origin soul inside the balls of blood struggled to awaken. Wang Lin's hands formed a seal and the power of thunder surged out of his origin soul like crazy. Right now he used the thunder inside his body without reserve on those balls of blood. At the same time, he raised the celestial sword and swung again. A ball of blood exploded with a bang. A miserable groan seemed to come from the void and the rest of the balls of blood began to gather like crazy. The blood ancestor's origin soul was about to awaken. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with blood. He had a feeling that if those balls of blood gathered, he would never get a chance to kill the blood ancestor again. His right hand pointed at the blood and he shouted, "Stop!" The stop spell instantly appeared, but the blood ancestor's origin soul inside the blood was too powerful. Wang Lin wasn't able to stop the blood ancestor due to his low cultivation level. The celestial spiritual energy inside his body surged like crazy, causing sharp pain from his meridians. His origin soul was also still injured, because he had no time to recover on the way here. Now, under this stress, he coughed out blood and shouted ferociously, "Stop for me!" The balls of blood that were gathering only paused for a moment under Wang Lin's spell. At this instant, the Karma Whip appeared and mercilessly whipped the balls of blood. At the same time, the last strand of Ling Qianho's sword energy inside Wang Lin's body rushed out toward the balls of blood. The Karma Whip, Ling Qianho's sword energy, and the countless thunderbolter from Wang Lin's origin soul seemed to fuse into one. They rushed into the condensing balls of blood right before the blood ancestor's origin soul awakened. Collapse. At this moment, the balls of blood that were condensing collapsed into countless drops of blood, and the blood ancestor let out an unwilling roar. The blood split into two parts. One carried the blood ancestor's origin soul and escaped. The second part turned around and rushed toward Wang Lin. The drops of blood rushing toward Wang Lin suddenly surrounded him and entered his body through his pores. An intense pain filled with body, causing Wang Lin to cough out a mouthful of blood. The powerful impact caused him to be thrown into the void and disappear. The celestial sword was controlled by Shu Ligua. He took the mountain soul and chased after Wang Lin. Although Shu Ligua was rebellious, at this moment, he panicked. Instead of flying away to freedom, he followed Wang Lin straight into the void. Wang Lin entered a coma. The drops of blood that rushed into his body were filled with powerful origin energy. This origin energy was cultivated by the blood ancestor over countless years and was extremely precious. However, this origin energy was like a sword of death inside Wang Lin's body. But there was such a thing as luck in the world. When the old man asked Wang Lin for the thunder beast, he had inadvertently blew far too much energy into him. This energy would explode the moment the burning disappeared from Wang Lin's body. It was unknown whether Wang Lin could survive this, but he would most likely be unable to bear it and his origin soul would collapse with his body. However, the blood ancestor was badly wounded right now. In order to escape and more so to kill Wang Lin, he had used half of his blood body to rush into Wang Lin. His intention was to kill, but he had inadvertently given Wang Lin an opportunity so great that it was just second to seeing the direction of the third step. Wang Lin's body crashed into a fragment that wasn't connected by any thunder chains and was just floating in the void. Not all the fragments in the Thunder Celestial Realm were interconnected. There were tiny fragments that floated in the void. Wang Lin's body was buried deep into the earth before he stopped. He was completely unconscious, but his body was rapidly changing. His body was filled with a large amount of origin energy that came from the drops of blood. Even his origin soul underwent a shocking change. After being surrounded by such rich origin energy, it began to absorb the origin energy. His cultivation was rapidly progressing toward the illusory yin stage. There shouldn't have been clouds over this small fragment, but at this moment, clouds began to appear. These clouds were exactly the same as the ones that appeared in the demon spirit land when Wang Lin decided to defy the heavens. As for the blood ancestor, his origin soul had awakened because the blood balls had merged. However, his body hadn't taken form yet, so he was dark red. He had never felt so weak ever since he started cultivating. This kind of weakness made him feel a deep chill. His hatred for Wang Lin had reached a peak. He had never hated someone so much. Wang Lin was the first. This video will end here.